I'm Theo.
And I'm Juliet.
And this is Apologies Accepted.
We offer an entertaining look at some of the big issues in history by examining public apologies of the famous and infamous.
We're looking at politicians, serial killers, actors, and you.
Send us a public apology you would like to make, and we'll read it on the air and give you a chance to redeem yourself, or just get some guilt off your shoulders.
We're here for you. Once a week, maybe more if you're really, really sorry. Hi, everybody.
This is Apologies Accepted,
the podcast.
And I'm not Theo today.
And I am not Juliet. Ever.
That's right. Much to your chagrin. Not everyone can be me, and it's to everyone's benefit, actually. So let's see. What's shaking bacon, Theo?
Oh, really? You want me to think? I've been on vacation for so long. I have forgotten.
My God, you were on vacation for like 3 weeks in Hawaii.
In Hawaii. And
I'm so jealous.
It was a week vacation and then a week of work. But yeah, it was a week of work in Hawaii. So,
yeah.
But I was still working. Yeah, it was great. And I've been back to reality for a week now, week and a couple of days. And I'm going to say, don't like reality.
I know, it's the worst.
Yeah. So it was great. It was very relaxing. I learned how to make lilikoi butter, and I'm very excited by that because it actually comes out okay. Passion fruit. It is.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's like a sauce made out of passion fruit pulp.
Oh, yum.
But now it's starting to not sound good, right?
Where do you get passion fruits?
Well, in Hawaii, it grows like weeds, apparently.
Oh, man.
And I couldn't find any. And in the grocery store, it was like never available. But I did find some frozen, and it came in a jar, not a jar. It came in the container about the size of an oatmeal, like Quaker instant oatmeal, the round tube thing. So a big tub.
Is that in Austin you found it, or in Hawaii?
In Hawaii. I found it in Hawaii. Okay. And they only wanted $52 for that tub of oatmeal that was actually really passion fruit pulp frozen.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, I am not spending $52 on this.
Hell no.
So anyway, I did find some, hooray, and it's very expensive for something that supposedly grows like weeds. Wow. It was like $2 a fruit, and they're maybe the size of a small orange.
Okay.
Anywhere from like a big fat grape juice. Who cares? Who cares if it's the size? It's a big fat grape juice. Who fucking cares? So, anyway, I made it, and I'm very excited. And now I've come home, and I have made it, and I have like 4 jars of it now, and that's enough to last me a year.
Did you bring it with you, the passion fruit? You brought the passion fruit home with you?
No, you can get passion fruit through Amazon.com. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's this online thing that sells you stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised and impressed. So that has been my everything since I've come back. Just making passion fruit butter or lilikoi butter. It is amazing. I will make you some, and I will get it to you. It doesn't last terribly long, so I'm kind of like, if I ship her passion fruit butter, it'll be poisonous by the time it gets to you.
Man, I'm so jealous you went to Hawaii. I've actually I have actually literally put in a request to the universe to send me $5,000 so I can go to Hawaii for a week. And so far, I'm not getting that $5,000.
I bet it's on its way.
I just know it. It's on its way. It's just taking a little while longer than I expected.
That is, listen, sure. Listen, if you're going to manifest anything, it may as well be money.
Well, yeah. Well, you can get anything you want with money.
Exactly.
So I'm glad you had a good vacation. That sounds awesome.
And how about you? What's shaking bacon? Because I'm not the only one who was on vacation.
I went to the North Carolina coast. So I went to the Outer Banks. I rented a house on the beach, like directly on the beach, on the dunes, in Avon, North Carolina, which is just north of the Hatteras Lighthouse, for a week, and went with my cousin Heather and her 2 lovely children and my husband. And my husband is not into the beach, so he mainly stayed in the house doing computer stuff like he does at home, except in shorts. And and Heather and I sort of hung out with the kids and went to the beach and did little touristy stuff and went shopping and various stuff like that. So, it was nice to be on the beach. It was beautiful. It was really, the water was nice and warm, and not too warm, but pleasantly warm. And the beach was gorgeous. And I had a good time getting up. I would get up before everybody in the morning and just sit on the top of the deck and have a cup of coffee and look at the water. And that was really pleasant.
Oh.
So that was worth it. And then in other bacon, I have joined a gym. I am totally terrified. I have not been in a gym in, I don't even know how many years it's been since I've been to a gym. But I picked this gym because they have gentle yoga and like water aerobics, which is aerobics for old people, which I'm now an old person, so I can totally go to water aerobics for old people.
I did not feel out of place.
I went in my 20s and I totally felt out of place because I was like the youngest person there by 40 years. And now I can totally feel like I'm part of the team. So that'll be fun. And then maybe if I get into some shape, eventually I can start going to regular classes, like regular swimming classes or regular yoga classes. And keep my fingers crossed that might happen. And then my other bacon is that I'm going to see Tori Amos this coming week.
I forgot I was going to ask. I know that's the 28th.
Yeah.
I am so jealous.
I think it'll be fun. As long as I get myself to go, I think I'll have a good time. So Brent doesn't want to go, so I'm going by myself, which is fine. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm fine. Really, I'm fine. Then I'm going by myself.
If you're going to go to any show alone, a Tori Amos concert is the one to go to because everybody's very mellow. Everybody's really high for the most part, I bet. And you can get up and leave if you're like, you know what, this is great, but I've had enough.
Not for me.
Right?
I can go.
No problem.
That's cool. Have you been? It sounds like you've been to one.
Oh, gosh. I have been to 3 or 4 Tori Amos concerts on purpose because where I'm the one that's like, oh, let's go. I dragged James to one in Dallas. And he fell asleep. So this goes to show you just how mellow
how relaxed it is.
Right? 'Cause he fell asleep. And the show did last for 3 hours. So I'm like,
that's cool.
Yeah. I can understand why he fell asleep. I loved it. And it went by like 15 minutes.
Wow.
It was torture for him. He hated every second of it.
Oh.
I know. He doesn't have musical taste.
He like? What does he like?
The shitty kind.
Like what?
Like, New Wave.
Oh, that's cool.
New Wave from no. Hazel O'Connor?
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, okay. Oh, he might have okay taste.
No, and then the pinnacle of taste is ABBA.
Right, of course. Right. Everyone agrees to that.
Yes. And so from ABBA it just goes downhill in my highly educated and very important opinion. It's bad music that's terrible. Now, it's all the... it's not Bauhaus. It's not Dead Can Dance, but it's all that bullshit.
Oh, the 4AD stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's...
okay.
Oh,
that's cool.
Didn't like it
I'm
then.
down with that.
Like it less now.
All right, cool. So, on that note, let's
talk about something else.
Let's talk about something else old. The Colosseum in Rome is considered one of the 7 wonders of the modern world, of course, and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. About 3 years ago, there was an increase in vandalism, which caused lawmakers to increase the penalties for vandalism of Italy's cultural heritage, which leads us to today's podcast topic. So, a 27-year-old dude was captured on video last month carving Ivan and Haley 23 into a brick wall of the Colosseum. So the brick, that brick that was defaced was actually not part of the original Colosseum. It was part of a wall that was built during a restoration in the 1850s. The Colosseum, of course, is from the 1st century AD, but the Colosseum authorities were just as pissed off as if it had happened to the ancient Colosseum itself, and said it didn't change the fact that it was vandalism, which is true. It doesn't change the fact that it was vandalism. So, as we were talking about before the podcast, the interesting thing is that not only did the authorities use photographs to identify the dude who turned out to be, surprise, a tourist, But Ivan Dimitrov, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He is a Bulgarian fitness instructor living in Britain, and he was identified by Italian military police because they cross-checked the names that were carved into the wall against registered guests in Rome and found their Airbnb and then found their identities, or the other way around. So they were able to, so when you go, we were also talking about this, when you go to Italy and you stay in a hotel or I guess an Airbnb, they have to register you with the state. So they take your passport. And I guess when I was last there, which was a million years ago, they used to keep your passport until you left, but now they give it back to you within like 24 hours. But that's how they know who's staying there in the country and where they're staying, and that's how they track down these two people, which I thought was really interesting.
Super interesting.
Don't commit any crimes in Italy.
Or if you do commit crimes in Italy that can be attached to your name, make sure you have a very common name like John. Right. Because Giovanni. What sucks for this poor guy, not poor guy, but what sucks for him is how many Ivans and Haleys are running around together?
Right.
Not that many.
Not that many, but they were pretty easy to find. I wonder if they have like an Excel spreadsheet of everybody staying in all the hotels, or how they do that. What database do they use? Anyway, that's another question for another time. Italy's ANSA news agency reported that the penalties for this sort of damage could include up to 5 years in prison and or a fine of more than $16,000. And Ivan Dimitrov's lawyer, whose name is Alexandro Maria Torelli, and who I'm not sure is entirely on Ivan's side, is working on a plea bargain. And the reason I say I'm not entirely sure he's on his client's side is that he's been trying to defend Dimitrov by characterizing him as an ignorant tourist. And he said, "The boy is the prototype of the foreigner who frivolously believes that anything is allowed in Italy, even the type of act which in their own countries would be severely punished." The lawyer went on to say that Mr. Dimitrov's apology was an attempt to make clear that he had pulled what he thought was a harmless stunt, which leads me to ask, is ignorance of the law a defense in Italy? Or is that the best he can do for a defense, is to say that he just thought it was, he thought it was going to be no big deal, because they've got the guy on video and they've got they've tracked down who he is based on the names that he carved into the wall. So it's almost impossible for this guy to defend him. Is there nothing better that no better defense he could have come up with?
It's the get sympathy maneuver, right?
I see.
And it's the only option. The guy is clearly guilty. He is totally guilty. He has confessed, but his confession doesn't matter because he's on video. He's right there. He's doing it. So the only thing you can do is just build up a story that it's not going to tug at anybody's heart, but, and I'm thinking like an Italian judge. But it's the only option he's got. Make him feel sorry.
That makes sense. And unfortunately, the story, which went viral on social media, unfortunately, like I said, seems to have started something of a trend. So last Friday, a 17-year-old girl from Switzerland was spotted apparently carving her initials into a wall of the building. And the very next day, a 17-year-old student from Germany was caught doing something similar. So I guess they've caught them both and are going to take them to trial too, I hope. But I hope this doesn't become more of a trend. Yes, you're going to say.
It's just, how are people this stupid? Yeah. The guy carved his name and he got in trouble. Now I'm going to go out and carve my name and get in trouble. But it's the pursuit of fame, I guess. Right.
And talk about being stupid. We'll talk about this more in the apology itself. But one of the defenses that the guy came up with for himself was that he didn't know the Colosseum was old. And why were you even there?
And, hi, you're on a tour, so they told you. Right. Maybe you weren't listening. Who knows, right? But I'm going to say when I heard that initially, I was like, the biggest piece of bullshit. And then when I was doing some research for today's topic, you get into the Colosseum. You get into the subject of the Colosseum. It's all engineering. It doesn't matter if you start off with a story about gladiators. It's all about engineering, right? And nothing bores me more than engineering. And so I've listened to a lot of shows that were all about engineers talking about the engineering as if everybody knew how things were structured and built. And I was like, I'm a nerd, but I'm not as big a nerd as you guys, you engineers guys are, right? Maybe this guy just isn't as big a nerd as we are.
Yeah.
To us, it's obvious the Colosseum is old, but
right.
I don't want to stereotype people, but he's a fitness instructor.
Right.
I just stereotype people. I'm so sorry, all of our sexy fitness instructors, but I'm sure you're all smart because you're listening to us. But yeah, so maybe he didn't know it was too, but it doesn't matter. You should do shit like that anyway.
Why would you even be there if you didn't know it was old? I mean, what possible reason would you have for going to the Colosseum
because
if you didn't realize?
Boring girlfriend Haley drags him around to all the old stuff, and he hates it so much. Can't we just go lift weights?
Stuff. She knew it was old. So,
he knew, yeah.
Even then, he knew it was old. So that's what I have for the story. How about you? Anything additional to add?
I do. Let's talk about cement, shall we?
Ooh, exciting.
Yes, I know, right? Because it's an endlessly fascinating topic. But part of the reason why the Colosseum is still standing is because of Roman cement. So we'll just start off with that. Do you know anything about Roman cement?
I might have at one time, but I no longer do.
Going to say no shame if you don't, because me either. So for the longest while, meaning up until 2023, nobody was 100,000% sure of exactly why and how Roman cement works the way that it does. So it's not quite indestructible, but it lasts a real long time. Mm-hmm. You know, still standing. And so let's just dive into it. Chemists at Harvard and MIT have unlocked the secret to the long stand, like what makes Roman cement indestructible. I hesitate to use that word, but there we go. So it has been previously assumed that the strength of Roman concrete came primarily from pozzolana, which is a volcanic ash from the area of Pozzuoli. Have you heard of this place? In the Bay of Naples.
No.
So volcanic ash. And specifically volcanic ash from the Bay of Naples. And it's known to have been used in the construction of buildings across the Roman Empire. However, in this latest study, researchers focused on a different component, small white inclusions referred to as lime casts, which are found throughout Roman concrete. So little bits of balls and chunks of stuff, small chunks, right? In the past, these features, which originate from lime, another of the key ingredients of Roman concrete, have been dismissed as the result of poor mixing practices or low-quality raw materials. But the question is, if Romans put so much effort into perfecting detailed recipes and shipping the best material hundreds of miles to create the ideal concrete, why would they put so little care into the manufacturing of the final concrete product? Well, this gets kind of boring, but we're going to skip all the boring bits. So basically, these chunks, these imperfections, may in fact have been a deliberate feature, one that contributed to the concrete's vital self-healing capability. So when cracks form in the material due to environmental stresses, the cracks pass through the lime clast, these chunks, right? And those chunks split open, and when water enters the cracks, it dissolves the lime chunks, and they provide a calcium-rich solution that recrystallizes as calcium carbonate, affecting gluing the crack back together. So,
interesting.
I know, it turned out to be kind of interesting. It's the only interesting engineering thing that I've got. All right, cool. Mm-hmm. So the Colosseum, where does it come from and why? The Colosseum was built as a reaction to the reign of Nero. Nero was known for his extravagance. He had confiscated a bunch of land around Rome and had built a huge private pleasure palace and lake that was his home. He was eventually driven from the throne and died by suicide, and Rome fell into a year-long civil war before Vespasian Flavius, these names, assumed control as emperor in 69 CE. And Vespasian. Okay, cool. We're just going to stick with Vespasian. So in 70 CE, 1 year later, he had Nero's pleasure palace buried, and he built on top of it the opposite of a private pleasure palace. He built a public building for all Romans to celebrate the glory of Rome. Rome was a war machine and existed largely because of what it took from other civilizations. The Colosseum was built by money obtained from the conquering of Judea in 70 CE by Titus, who was a son of the Emperor Vespasian, whose name I will mispronounce several different ways. The Colosseum was the largest and most expensive building in Rome, standing at 160 feet high, which is about 15 stories, and it could seat 50,000 people. It had 28 elevators built in to the floor of the Colosseum to lift wild animals up into the ring. Wow. So, yes, it's a lot of wild animals. Mm-hmm. The Colosseum owes its oval shape to its purpose, blood sports. Most buildings in Rome are rectangular, but the Colosseum is oval, thereby providing no corners for somebody to get stuck in, right? Mm-hmm. So no corners means you can't corner your opponent, and this prolongs the fight.
Wow. Bloodthirsty.
Pardon?
Bloodthirsty.
Bloodthirsty, and also we want to see every cut. It's got to last a long time. I paid 10 cents to see this guy get murdered, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. The Colosseum opened in 80 CE, and Vespasian had died a few months before the opening, and his son, before the opening, Titus becomes emperor, who's the son of Vespasian, and he dedicates the first games to his father's memory. So those games, the celebration, the grand opening of the Colosseum was 100 days of crucifixions, wild beast shows, and Greek myths that were acted out with prisoners. Wow. And so in the theater, when you have a Greek tragedy that is performed, the death is pretend. They would use condemned criminals as actors in these things. And so, like, you can imagine the myth of Icarus flying too close to the sun. This is actually a thing that happened. It's written by a historian or chronicler of the time. So they basically dressed a prisoner up, slapped some wings on his back, and threw him into the center of the ring from the top. And he went flying to crash to his death. Yep.
Oh, my God.
So, great. After that, after those 100 days, the normal daily schedule basically ran something like this. In the morning, there were wild beast shows. In the afternoon, crucifixions. And in the evening, gladiators. There's a lot about gladiatorial fighting. We'll not get into it at all, but we will just say the Romans brought theater to death and death to theater. So that's basically it for the Colosseum. There were lots of things that happened, but I'm not going to talk about them. Like they've flooded the Colosseum once, probably more often than once, actually.
Battle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that happened. And
that's cool.
1,000 people died in that one battle from drowning. And okay, great. The fighting was such that they estimate in 400 years of use, 1 million people died in the Colosseum.
Damn. Oh my God. Where did they get all these people from? That's horrible.
The empire.
The conquered countries.
Just brought them in. Yep.
Oh my God.
Let's see. And then we do know from records that about 11,000 animals a season were brought in for battles and hunting in the ring, right? Man versus beast kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay. And so that got me thinking, all right, well, this guy carved his name and his girlfriend's name into the Colosseum. So what about, and that's a very human thing to do, leave a mark somewhere. Mm-hmm. So what about other famous ancient graffiti / other tourists that have graffitied things? So just a hodgepodge. Let's look at tourists who have graffitied things. A Chinese teen visiting Egypt prompted outrage when he wrote his name on the wall of a 3,500-year-old Luxor temple in 2013. Parents of the 15-year-old Chinese tourist have apologized after the teenager defaced a stone sculpture in ancient Egypt. The act drew ire in Egypt and China, generating a massive online backlash amongst Chinese unforgiving netizens. The vandal carved Ding Junhao was here in Chinese in the 3,500-year-old Luxor Temple.
Wow.
Now, admittedly, because he's coming from China, where they have a culture that goes back well beyond, right? I don't know that it goes back 10,000 years, but I know they've got buildings that are 5,000 years and older. So maybe he just wasn't that impressed with a 3,500-year-old building. One Chinese tourist commented, "The saddest moment in Egypt. I'm so embarrassed. I want to hide myself. I said to our Egyptian tour guide, I'm really sorry." But he was not the first traveler to commit such an offense. There's a long tradition of leaving "I was here" graffiti while visiting Egyptian ruins. One team of researchers recently uncovered over 1,000 inscriptions inside the tomb of Pharaoh Ramses VI in the Valley of the Kings, many of which were from Romans who visited the site 2,000 years ago. Their ancient declarations include familiar complaints such as, "I visited and I did not like anything except for the sarcophagus, and I cannot read the hieroglyphics," or the hieroglyphs. So some actual Roman graffiti.
Graffiti.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
I'm
Funny.
real excited for this one. So it's coming from Pompeii, and I'm sure I'm going to say everybody's the nerd at the same nerd level I am. So we all know about the erotic graffiti in Pompeii.
Right.
It's not that. Okay. So Pompeii has dominated the study of ancient graffiti, and that's largely because the graffiti was preserved by the explosion of Vesuvius. Let's see here. And one piece of graffiti, which was under observation. What the fuck does that mean? Is what would we call it? A back and forth between two romantic rivals. So, in Latin, somebody wrote, "Successus, a weaver, loves the innkeeper's slave girl named Iris. She, however, does not love him. Still, he begs her to have pity on him. His rival wrote this. Goodbye." Okay. And so then Successus comes along and says, "Envious one, why do you get in the way? Submit to a handsomer man and one who is being treated very wrongly and good looking." And then our friend comes back and says, "I have spoken. I have written all there is to say. You love Iris, but she does not love you." You can imagine the same sort of thing playing out today. We've got some more. It's, again, very random. "You do speak Latin. You can help me with my pronunciation." So, straight out of Pompeii, Philiros, Philiros. Phileros? Phileros Spado. Spado. Phileros is a eunuch. Lucius Pinixt. Lucius wrote this. Apollinarius Medicus Titi Emperor. Oh, God, I can hear Brent just beating his head on this. You as well, but you're more forgiving. Imperatus hic cavivate bene, right? Apollinaris, doctor to the Emperor Titus, had a good crap here. In Latin, the profanity cacante pertained to defecation.
Funny.
I'm not going to carry on with the Latin because I don't speak it. Opius, you're a clown, a thief, and a cheap crook. We have a wet bed. I admit we were wrong, my host. If you ask why, there was no chamber pot. Okay, yep. And sure, all that rings like real witty in Latin. Virgula to Tetris, you are a nasty boy. Epiphara, you are bald. It was an insult even then. If only similar swindling would dupe you, innkeeper. You sell water and drink the undiluted wine yourself. The petty thieves request the election of Vatia as Adelae. So in ancient Pompeii, an Adelae was an elected official who supervised markets and local police, among other things. Who cares? That's not even a fun graffiti piece. Caladius makes the girls moan. Is that a person or a commercial for a product? I don't know. I wonder, O wall, that you have not yet collapsed. So many writers' cliches do you bear. This phrase seems to have been a popular one, as slightly different versions of it appear in multiple locations throughout Pompeii. That is what I've got. I on purpose avoided all of the super fun erotic stuff because there's so much of it.
Wow.
And that's not this show. We're tasteful.
That's right. We're very classy.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. And so that leaves us the apology.
Right. So good old Ivan, our hero or anti-hero, wrote a letter recently to the city of Rome's prosecutor and mayor, saying that he now knew how serious his actions were. He praised those who, quote, guard the inestimable historical and artistic value of the Colosseum with dedication, care, and sacrifice, and then said, it is with deep embarrassment that only after what regrettably happened did I learn of the antiquity of the monument. So I had no idea why I was here, what I was looking at, what I was doing, even who I am, possibly. I just was going along with my girlfriend for a good time and happened to carve my name and her name into a wall, a random wall that I thought was probably built yesterday. He said, by damaging the Colosseum, I acted with frivolousness, flippancy, and incivility to the detriment of other visitors. I have no excuses. He acknowledged the seriousness of the deed I committed and offered his heartfelt and sincere apologies to Italians and the entire world for the damage done to a monument which is, in fact, heritage of all humanity, and he offered to sincerely and concretely right his wrong and redeem himself. I am also aware that similar conduct in my country would have resulted in much more serious consequences. For this reason, I accept all responsibility and will make sincere and concrete efforts, I think I said that part already, to redeem myself and make up for the mistakes that I have made. So, Italy in general did not respond very positively to that letter. A popular online website called Dago Spia suggested that the letter only made things worse. He asked if he thought that the Colosseum was a fast food restaurant. So, generally speaking, Italy was not impressed. I looked at the apology from our usual standpoint of our points of note. Was there an expression of regret? Yes. Was there an explanation of what went wrong? Yes, but his explanation was that he didn't know it was old. So is that believable? If you're at the Colosseum, I think you know that it's old, no matter who you are. Acknowledgement of responsibility? Yes. Declaration of repentance? Yes. Offer of repair? Sort of. He said he would make sincere and concrete efforts to redeem himself, but he didn't say what those were. I mean, is he going to go back and volunteer to clean up the Colosseum? He didn't say. And request for forgiveness, not that I saw, but I didn't see the entire letter, so I could be wrong. I give this apology overall 7.5 points, and I took points off for believability and sincerity because I don't believe it would have been a good apology if I believed that he wrote it and he deeply meant it. But I think that his lawyer probably wrote it, and the guy doesn't give a shit about what he did. So.
Yeah, how interesting, because this is the one time that we are very far apart.
Ooh.
Yes, and we are far apart because I am not able to take out what I don't believe from this guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I gave it a 3.
Wow.
And it was largely because I don't believe a single word of it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you know factually about the Colosseum, it doesn't matter that it was the Colosseum. What if you're in an alley walking down the road and you just stop and carve your name in this Italian town? You know, do that in your own home.
Yeah. Or don't do it at all.
Yeah. But you are right in that it hits many of the marks. So I'm going to revise and I'm going to go up to a 7.5. No, to a 5.
To a 5.
I'm going to give it exactly what you did. Because you are right in that the apology does hit many of the markers that are required And I just had a hard time separating my disbelief from my judgment.
Yeah. So that's an average of 6.25, I think, if my math is right, which I'm sure it's not.
It always is.
So that's not bad. That's not the worst apology we've ever seen by far. It's also not the best. I think he definitely could have done better. Let's move on to apology expected or who's sorry now. I do have one this week, and I'll tell you what it is.
What is it?
The father of Indianapolis Colts safety, which is apparently a sports thing, Rodney Thomas II. I think that's the safety's name, Rodney Thomas II, and the father was Rodney Thomas, and Rodney Thomas was recently indicted by a Pittsburgh federal grand jury in violation of the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act for shooting to death a bald eagle. Theo, he shot America.
Yeah, shot America.
He surrendered himself to authorities shortly after blasting the bird to death May 12th with an air rifle in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania. The eagle was so sad. The eagle was one of a pair that had nested in the neighborhood for decades, and the neighbors had named them Sam and Muppets.
Oh, how cute names.
I know, and one of them Sam is now dead, which is very sad, and poor Muppets has to struggle on alone. Thomas was released on $10,000 bail and faces up to $5,000 in fines and a year behind bars. So I don't know what was possessing this guy to shoot a bald eagle. Clearly it was a bald eagle. You can't really mistake a bald eagle for too much else. And everyone in the area knew that these birds were here. They'd been there for decades. So I expect an apology from Rodney Thomas and from his son for being Rodney Thomas II. So do you have a apology expected or who's sorry now this week?
This month and this week and today and this hour. Yes, I do. And so who's sorry now? It's me. I don't think I've done this one before. And it's about just being an ugly tourist.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I usually try not to be. I usually try and pretend I'm European. And I usually get away with it, too. Right. But this one time, way back when in the early 2000s, my first trip to Paris, it was 2003, 4. The U.S. having an ugly moment with France in regards to, I can't remember what it was, something to do with war on terrorism. And Congress had renamed the cafeteria French fries as Freedom Fries. That's how anti-France it was, right?
Yeah.
Freedom Fries. And so I had taken 6 weeks of French in community college in Long Beach. And I liked the language. And so I was very excited to trot out my Je voudrais un hamburger, right, at a restaurant. And so that's what I did. I ordered a hamburger. And the guy looked at me like I had thrown up on his shoes, right?
Oh, no.
He had no idea what... James speaks French, by the way. Right. And this was a romantic weekend in Paris. It was great. I love Paris. Paris is amazing. And the only way to see Paris is to see Paris when you are madly first in love. Because everything's golden and beautiful. So great. Except for this one waiter who was not having it with my French accent and was like, And so then I switched to English and I was like, just a hamburger. And like, And so, then I pointed, and then he pretended that he couldn't see where I was pointing at on the menu. And it's like, look, Frenchie. So he closed the menu. I was like, I want a hamburger and some Freedom Fries. And I would like to apologize to that waiter because although you were a dick, I should have just gotten into the charm of having a Parisian be rude and playful with a tourist. So I could have held back on the Americanness.
That's not so bad, though.
It's not that bad, but it's the only thing it's the only time I've been rude as a tourist.
Yeah.
It's totally not true. It's the only thing I can remember at the time. Oh, God, no. Are you kidding? That's rude as a tourist? Please.
Rude, constantly rude.
I can't even.
Every minute. On purpose. So thank you for your apology.
Thank you for your heroism.
For your rudeness, for your heroism, your Freedom Fries. I think that's all we have this week, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, Theo.
Usually I'd have a ton of stuff, but no, like I said, vacation brain.
Absolutely, same here. So everyone, don't trip potato chips. And what's the other one?
See you later, alligator. No, that's not it.
I don't remember what it is.
For a while, crocodile. Skip to the loo, my darling.
Smell you later.
Bye, don't cry. Oh, stay cool, cucumbers.
Stay cool, cucumbers. And we'll see you next week, I think.
Bye.
Take care. Have a
Bye,
good summer.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Apologies Accepted, the podcast.
You can find links to the articles and the sources in the show notes.
To submit an apology or find out more, visit us at apologiesaccepted.net, where you can also find our merchandise.
We're on Twitter at Apologies Accepted.
And on Instagram at apologies.accepted.
You can support our important work at Patreon.com/Apologies Accepted.
And fuck Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.